ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنهر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث صدق الله العظيم.
We have a lineup of brilliant women who have led the way in innovation, excellence and growth in their businesses and occupations, tech or otherwise. I will now invite the eminent women leaders to the stage to strike the gong. I'll request the ladies to stand next to the gong as I invite them so we can follow the sequence. I'll begin with Dr. Shamshad Akhtar, of course, the chairperson of PSX. She needs no introduction, being an asset to Pakistan and its economy, having held positions as eminent and significant as caretaker, finance minister and governor, State Bank in the past. She is serving on multiple boards along with Pakistan Stock Exchange, PICG, Karandaz, SSGC and many others. Naz Khan, Principal Country Officer at IFC Pakistan. She is former board member of Pakistan Stock Exchange and spearheaded K-Electric as its Chief Strategy Officer. She is one of the leading ladies in the corporate sector of Pakistan. Amara Masood. I'm not sure if Amara is here. Amara? Okay. Jahan Ara, a Pakistani businesswoman who was the president of Pasha, Pakistan Software Houses Association for over 20 years. She started Catalyst Labs, a startup accelerator and women leadership platform. She's also a member of the Prime Minister's Task Force on IT and the digital economy and is a member of the Punjab IT Board. Noor Jahan Bilgrami. She is a multidisciplinary artist, curator and educationist. Her atelier, Coils, spearheaded the revival of handloom weaving, hand block printing and the use of natural dyes. She is a founder member of Indus Valley School of Art and Architecture. She is also the recipient of a special award conferred to her for her work on the Pakistan Pavilion at Dubai Expo 2021-22. Naila Naqvi. She's a culinary and baking expert with hotel management qualifications from Singapore and the founder of Pie in the Sky chain of bakeries. Her business has made a mark in the local market for the last 22 years. Currently, it is being enhanced by the technology platform where her bakery is being served through the online marketplace. There is an app also of Pie in the Sky. Sabah Kamal, she has extensive experience working in IBM Corporation in Pakistan and internationally, including 20 years in leadership roles. Maliha Bangash, very well known as Mimi Bangash, an accomplished banking and financial expert with rich experience of more than 22 years obtained in Singapore, Turkey and Pakistan, primarily in banking and financial services. Please come to the stage. Farzeen Khan. She is presently serving as National Consultant Anti-Corruption and Justice Coordinator at United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, Pakistan. Saira Sehgal, a renowned entrepreneur who heads Zurita Flowers. Faryal Fahim, she is the CEO of VIS, the credit rating agency. Sara Ahmed, Head of Ratings at VIS Credit Rating Agency. Reshma Aftab, Private Sector Specialist at IFC. Huma Khalid, Investment Officer Infrastructure at IFC. Nadia Ishtiaq, MD Investment Banking and Head of FEM Finance Initiative at K-Trade. Hani Jamal, Manager Research at IFC. Dr. Fakhra Rizwan. She is a certified director, a qualified corporate lawyer and doctoral scholar. Currently the company secretary and chief legal and corporate affairs officer at Pakistan Stock Exchange. and myself, Raida Latif. I'm the Chief Marketing and Business Development Officer at Pakistan. I will now call upon the chairperson, Pakistan Stock Exchange, Dr. Shamshad Akhtar, to please come to the podium, welcome our distinguished guests gathered here, and share some words of wisdom with us and set the tone for the rest of the event. Dr. Shamshad.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Pakistan Stock Exchange on this International Women's Day at PSX. This is my third in a row, first as an ordinary woman, not a part of PSX, and then last year when I had already joined PSX. So I'm delighted really that we are celebrating together with so many accomplished women the Women's Day at PSX. I hope the day goes well for our trading session. So we are proud this time around for our collaboration with UN Women, IFC, PICG, and Women on Board. This year's theme of Digital All Innovation and Technology for Gender Equality is pertinent and timely. Post-pandemic, developing countries were reviving and adjusting their course of development, drawing from the lessons of pandemic. Subsequent unfolding political developments, macroeconomic instability, devastating floods, and the damage induced by them, the demand and supply disruption together have hit the country with unprecedented high inflation. Not only has there been a reversal in progress in poverty, but growing layoffs because of industrial and agriculture disruptions have impacted our fellow women disproportionately. In midst of country's track record of gender inequalities, Pakistan today faces gender emergency. There may be spots of good news here and there, but collectively there is an emergency because we continue to be in the lowest ranks. It calls for recognizing urgency of enhancing women empowerment and inclusion. International evidence confirms women empowerment and inclusion is quite critical, but it confirms that the power of digital all, STEM, and financial services is critical in uplifting women, and these three elements will be subject of my discourse this morning. While Pakistan has laid basic framework for promoting digital technology, the social, economic, and IT policy architecture has yet to be optimized to unleash potential of technology to deal with the challenges of both supply and demand services that have perpetuated inequalities and gender gap. Gender inequality not only robs women of equal opportunity and dignity, but it is also costly for economy and society. An IMF study has highlighted that for countries ranking in the bottom half of gender equality, closing the gender gap could increase GDP by 35%. Of course, these are averages, and it could mean a higher contribution depending on the level of competence of women. So we need a turnaround. To achieve a turnaround, there is need to fast-track efforts to address gender disparity across underserved provinces and outside major urban centers between men and women in their educational attainment, labor force participation, wages, and access to internet financial services. Given the weak infrastructure, issues of access and affordability remain challenging.
Thank you, Dr. Shamshad, for sharing all these details with us. And it definitely is mind-boggling and thought-provoking for all of us. In our own capacities, we must do whatever we can and make those ripples happen. So we see the impact instead of actually just looking at numbers and lamenting on them. It is important that we take steps to address the situation. We have with us here today Ms. Maliha Bangash from IFC Singapore. She's heading the digital banking division there. She wants to say a few words to our audience here. Maliha.
Thank you so much. I don't want to take much time. I just want to say that today I'm representing PICG, which is, as you know, a very reputed organization and helps in certifications and furthering the cause of corporate governance in the country. And Dr. Shamshad, thank you for that very enlightening and insightful speech. And I think it highlights, and you highlighted, Madam, very nicely, that, PICG should play a role and is playing a role. So my message today on behalf of PICG is that all the women who want to be in leadership positions, who want to be on boards, please come forward. We are there to guide you, to mentor you, and reach out, informally, formally, and also please do take your certifications. We are there as an institution to help you further your cause. Thank you so much.
I invite Nadia to come on stage and talk about women empowerment using technology, the effort, the impact, and the future. Nadia, please join us.
So my journey with empowering women via technology started about 7 to 8 years ago with my initiative, the Women's Marketplace, and later SheOps. It was accidental, starting with a WhatsApp group for women, which was later converted into a marketplace Facebook group and then an e-commerce marketplace with more than 6,000 women entrepreneurs selling on that and more than 125,000 SKUs. That led to Meta, reaching out to me, and Meta, which was Facebook then. And with that, they came down to Pakistan. Generally, Pakistan is known for, the negative work or the things that are not happening. So they met the women entrepreneurs, they did a case study on us, they did a video story. After that, I was invited to be part of their 6-month accelerator program for 14 startups from across the world. And it makes me proud and humble at the same time to say that we were the only startup from this entire region, Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, and I was the only female-led startup in that cohort of 15. Again, these were just some stats of how these trainings impacted the women and how they were able to really start and scale up online businesses. Again, some of the stories which were featured globally won better, and makes my heart really proud because, there were 3 stories featured. There were actually 5 stories featured for Pakistan, but the 3 were from FemPro. Again, we also have these conversations which are through Facebook Live. They're not exactly policy conversations, but we get women from the chambers, we get senior community leaders, who come in, who give their perspective, and women entrepreneurs share the success stories. And it is like a lounge-style casual talk that we have on Facebook, heart-to-heart talk on Facebook.
I also invite Naila Naqvi on stage. Naila is an accomplished entrepreneur and, as mentioned earlier, heads Pie in the Sky as founder and CEO. Over to you, Naz.
Let me start with Faiza, because we're talking about the classroom. You're someone who's a software engineer. You're someone who has worked with women. You've done coding. You've launched. You're like a tech entrepreneur. So just tell us a little bit about why did you end up getting into this side, and what do you find, if there's a general view for women that they can't be in STEM, how do you find when you're training women, how do they absorb? Are they good students, not? Just tell us a little bit.
So how I got into tech, because I was a nerd, as simple as that. Me working in tech or working for women came naturally because I saw that tech changed my life. I'm a neurodiverse person. So tech has been really helpful in terms of me getting my education and a lot of other things. So I knew that it has the potential to change more lives. When it comes to women getting into or not getting into tech, there's a thing called unconscious bias, and people have it against women, that women can't be technical enough or they can't be good in engineering, which is not true. The reason being that when we take women, so at Code Girls, what we do is that we take women from a non-traditional background. So someone who has done a BCom, someone who has done a BA, someone who has done a BS in mathematics, for example, or something that is completely unrelated to tech. And when we train them how to code, we see that they pick it way quicker than anyone else, because A, they apply themselves fully because they understand the importance of the opportunity that they have received. B, a lot of these women, when they want to learn how to code, they want to prove themselves. So there is another aspect of that emotional energy being invested into the whole, process of learning.
I actually recently moved back from Dubai, and one of the most common statements that I used to hear around me is, I am not technical. And it is my mission for people to stop saying that, okay? You can order pizza without being technical. You can book an airline ticket without being technical. So I actually went up to PICG and I said, you need to include some element of technology in your director training program. And I see that Mimosh has probably just stepped out, because it's the umpteenth time that I'm trying to get people to introduce technology, the governance of technology, into the director training program. So coming back to your question, so I feel actually very privileged, the female part of course is there, but people think that I am a huge expert only because I come from technology.
And we want to let them continue to think that, right?
Yeah, but sometimes I feel, okay, I'm not. People like Faiza, they are the experts. What I really just try to bring into the board is the business use of technology. And, it's so pervasive. If you look at the top companies worldwide, the top 10 companies, I think 8 are in technology. Technology is pervasive. So my message as a board member, be it a female or male, is that adopt the technology. Please, let's not hear this bit, I am not technical anymore.
I've done my hotel management. So I worked at Hawaii Towers for almost 10 years. When I got married, actually it was my husband who actually suggested that I start the business. So I had my husband's support, from day one. And he was also my chief financer, which I haven't had to pay the loan back yet. So, I've been lucky in that.
It's been accruing, so you have no idea what bill you're going to get at the end.
But, and it's just grown from there. It's grown from there. And, recently, so we've gone, we've launched our own app. We've, gone online, digital, so it's sort of been a sort of, for me, maybe because I've been in business 22 years, I should have, approached the digital side of it earlier.
But what prompted you? What all of a sudden made you realize, I need to move digital?
Well, after 22 years, it was like, I'm not technical. So, so it was like, but now I think, you need to get to that stage. You need to realize that, even if you surround yourself with good people who know what they're doing, they'll teach you, or they'll give you the confidence to say, okay, now I'm at that stage where I can do it. And so we did.
I would just like to make a comment on this. Absolutely right. The access to connectivity is absolutely essential. However, I think we need to differentiate between access to connectivity and access to a smartphone. I, for one, as the Director for Digital Financial Services at Karandaz, I'm trying very hard to shift the focus from the gap in access to smartphone. It is actually not essential. We tend to get bogged down by this concept that the tech has to be the latest and the greatest. Not always. For financial inclusion or access to finance perspective, you do not need to have every solution which requires a smartphone. There's this good old technology which can be used over a feature phone as well. We know that access is already way more than the access to a smartphone. Why not focus on tech which enables all these women, and even men for that matter, who cannot use a smartphone or who cannot actually afford a smartphone? Because then we are putting too much onus on the entire chain that, first of all, put the connectivity out there, then how do you make sure that the bottom of the pyramid segment actually can afford a smartphone? And if they don't, you've failed again. So latest and greatest, slickest of technologies is not always necessary. But yes, if you have to be a coder, you obviously need a computer. So that's a problem that needs to be tackled.
I feel very privileged to be standing here today, especially following the address of Dr. Shamshad Akhtar, and then sort of, this panel discussion and Adia Patel's very enlightening sort of, discussion on the kind of works she's doing. I clearly saw that from the very beginning of this event, the takeaways were women in leadership positions, and this panel discussion literally sort of, becoming the kind of sort of, talking point on women in tech, and for us, not just women in tech, but women in all professional factions for that matter, because tech represents literally, it's an essential part of all professional factions now, but bringing them out to the boardrooms.
We have mapped a full year calendar of activities to each supplier, what is most important to them from a shared values perspective. So for example, there would be one SDG which is more relevant to say, for example, a Coke, and then to Pepsi-Cola it's something else, to somebody else it's something else. And on Break the Bias, we have had the greatest support from Procter & Gamble. What we are working with them towards is something a bit more, something a bit larger, whereby we are trying to induct and recruit more and more female riders. So the number is not that good right now. We have about 25 to 30,000 riders listed, out of which at any one point around 10 to 15,000 are active, but only 50 of them are female riders. So what we are working on is with a program with P&G to increase the number of female riders, increase the number of warehouse or store managers and the staff underneath them to manage our grocery business. So all I'm saying is the third principle is particularly very close to my heart. कि अगर आपको और कुछ नहीं समझ में आती, and I have to give one nugget or takeaway, it is actually good for business.
So before we discuss the need and benefits of a standardized ESG framework, and I fully agree with Mr. Mimosh, the points that he has raised. It is actually important for companies to understand the concept and the benefits that it will bring to their companies. The thing is that, the total impact investment globally currently stands at around $16 trillion, which is expected to grow to $30 trillion by 2030, which is obviously skewed towards European and American markets, but it is geographically dispersed, and the Southeast Asian countries are now gearing up with ESG compliance. And the fact is that, companies have realized that they can no longer use ESG as a marketing tool. This is no longer good to have disclosure strategy. It is actually important because stakeholders have now actually changed the lens through which they used to evaluate the performance of different companies. So profitability is not the sole criteria that investors are looking at. In fact, sustainable long-term growth is a key factor in making investment decisions.
Capacity building is absolutely important, but as it happens, there are other ecosystem players who have to play their part, and the management and the executives who have to roll it out. There's a massive work to be done in terms of their capability development and how to action ESG and how to report ESG. So that's a bigger play area, and I think everybody will have to come on board, making it part of business schools education, making it part of other executive education part. Otherwise, I think if we just fill the board level capacity, that's not going to be enough. We'll have to actually roll it down all the way to make things happen. And I think there is a lot of enthusiasm with the younger management in learning it. So we host webinars, we host these topics on ESG, and the amount of participation we get from younger executives, that shows us that there's a lot of enthusiasm amongst this group to learn about ESG.
What are the areas that I think really males, and so all the gentlemen in the back who are eating, what are the things that as men we need to do to ensure that we can really fight for the cause? So I think first and foremost, if you look at our mission as a business, is to uplift communities through the power of commerce. And you really cannot uplift communities unless you uplift its women. And so when we look at ourselves as a business and where we want to be, where we are today, I have 100% confidence that if we do not include more women in our workforce, if we do not solve the challenges that women have from a business standpoint, that we will not be able to grow as a business. In fact, we talked a little bit about how it's good for business. I can also confidently say, based on data, that women definitely make better shoppers than men.
आज पाकिस्तान स्टॉक एक्सचेंज में रिंगिंग ऑफ द बेल की सेरेमनी हुई, जिसमें मखसूसन जो है वुमेंस डे के बारे में बात की गई और कैसे हमारे मुल्क की मईशत को स्ट्रॉन्ग करने के लिए हमारी ज़रूरत है, एक कौम की ज़रूरत है कि हम इकोनॉमिक पार्टिसिपेशन ऑफ वुमेन को इंक्रीज़ करें। इस वक्त पाकिस्तान में लेस दैन 25% वुमेन मईशत का, फॉर्मल मईशत का हिस्सा है। बांग्लादेश में 40% है। हमें इसको एड्रेस करने की ज़रूरत है, क्योंकि अगर हम ट्रू ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन चाहते हैं, इकोनॉमिक एंड सोशल ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन, और पाकिस्तान का पोटेंशियल रियलाइज़ करना चाहते हैं, तो हमें ज़रूरत है कि हम ख़वातीन को लीडरशिप रोल्स पे लेके आएँ, बोर्ड्स पे लेके आएँ, कंपनीज़ को हेड करें, इंपॉर्टेंट फंक्शंस को हेड करें। इसी तरह एक फैमिली भी स्ट्रॉन्ग होती है और एक सोसाइटी मजबूत होती है और एक मुल्क तरक्की करता है। मेरा नाम सदफ आबिद है, मैं सर्कल की फाउंडर एंड CEO हूँ। सर्कल में हम ख़वातीन को इकोनॉमिकली स्ट्रॉन्ग बनाने के लिए डिजिटल लिटरेसी, जो आज का टॉपिक भी है, डिजिटल, हम डिजिटल लिटरेसी दे रहे हैं गिलगित गिज़र से लेके खानेवाल, रहीम यार खान, ताकि ख़वातीन जो है आज के दौर की जो जदीद स्किल है, टेक्नोलॉजी को इस्तेमाल कर सकें और आगे बढ़ सकें।
I'm Naz Khan, Principal Country Officer for IFC. And, this is International Women's Day at the Pakistan Stock Exchange. I'm excited to be here as stock exchanges across the globe ring the bell for gender equality. This is a day for us which is a stark reminder of the gender disparity that exists globally. In Pakistan in particular, it is frightening that we are at 145 out of 146 countries on the global gender gap index. So it is imperative that we move forward to bridge this divide and aggressively, so that we can actually move towards a nation that is far more prosperous when its women, which are 50% of the population, end up getting involved. And the theme this time, which relates to digital, which is what the UN has taken on, and you're talking about innovation and technology, this is a great equalizer, and it's one area where a lot of women can actually participate when it comes to financial inclusion and using technology to actually enable women access to the economy.